The first reading today talks about the persecution in the early church. The people that hated Jesus, the people that had him crucified, wanted to crush the church. And among them was St. Paul, who thought he was doing the right thing, but obviously he wasn't. But the amazing thing is, when they started to clamp down in Jerusalem on all of the Christians, the little baby Christians that had just been converted, they scattered to the four corners. And with them, they took that seed of faith. The seed of faith that the apostles would nurture and continue to plant. And when they went from town to town, they already found sometimes people who were there who had been from Jerusalem and had scattered. And what the Jews had intended to do, not all of the Jewish people, but the Pharisees had intended to do, was to stop this fire, this flame that had started with the resurrection of Jesus Christ. What they didn't realize was that it scattered the sparks everywhere, and those sparks started new little fires. It's like having a log on the fire and it burning red hot, and you decide you want to put the fire out, so you take the log out and put it in the middle of the grass and start beating it with something to put it out, and all of the sparks scatter everywhere, and all of a sudden you've got little fires burning all around you. What the devil intended to do to destroy the faith actually helped spread it. That's what we're all called to do as well. Sometimes we're called to do that by huge acts, and sometimes just little things. This morning I caught something on the internet that just amazed me. There was a young police officer down in Dallas, Texas, who was just convicted of murder. She came home from a long day at work and went to go into her apartment, or at least what she thought was her apartment, swung open the door, and there was a black man there eating an ice cream, and she thought she was in her apartment and that he was there to rob her, and she shot and killed him. And as you can imagine, people were just livid. She explained to people that she thought it was her apartment, and she went in and she just panicked and did that. And although she was convicted and sentenced to, I think, 12 years in prison for murder, the young brother, who was only 18 years old, the brother of the man that was killed, got up to give a statement before they issued the sentencing. And to everyone's great amazement, this young man, who was very nervous and kept playing with his collar, said, "I don't hate you. I forgive you for what you did. I love you as a Christian, and I know that if you turn to Jesus Christ, that he'll forgive you what you did too. I don't want you to rot in hell. I don't want you even necessarily to go to jail. I just want you to love Jesus." And he looked at the judge, who had tears running down her face. He said, "Could I hug her?" And the judge nodded yes, and she got out, and this tall young black man hugged this tiny little blonde cop, and she just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. It went on for what seemed like an eternity, and amazingly, the news cameras didn't turn off. They just let them hug and play out that moment. It was such a witness to the power of God's forgiveness. And think about that young man. He said, "I couldn't say this in front of my family," because his family wanted a longer sentence. They didn't think 12 years was enough. He was going against all of those people he loved to say what he knew was true, that Jesus Christ would forgive her, and that Jesus Christ gave him the power to forgive her himself. It's the reason Jesus came, to teach us of the love of a Father. And I pray that this young man will be embraced by his family, that their faith is as deep as his is. I pray to God in a time like that I would have the grace to do that kind of act of total heroism. It's those little sparks of faith that we spread all over the world. Sometimes it's something as simple as listening to a person who's rambling on about the pains and trials and tribulations in their life, or sometimes it's as simple as calling somebody who's a shut-in and asking them how they're doing, or calling someone you haven't talked to in years and telling them happy birthday. It's those little things that we do that let people know that no matter how the world is trying to crush the Christian faith, and I guarantee you they are out there trying to crush everything we believe in, but as long as we're out there spreading those sparks of faith, there's still hope that Christ will reign supreme in our country and in our world. But it's up to us.